It probably comes to no surprise that Hello Kitty's vast media repertoire includes comics. What may actually be surprising is the fact that it took all the way until 2013 for Hello Kitty to actually have a full-blown comic of her own. She had comic strips in publications such as Strawberry News, Sanrio's own monthly magazine, and even on merchandise, like this cute little fabric design or this comic-styled handkerchief. There are a bunch of short comic strips featuring Hello Kitty out there in the wild, and this abundance is even more apparent with the fantastic Hello Kitty Hello 40 compilation book, which is brimming with adorable strips showcasing amazing art from artists around the globe who are passionate about the iconic kitty and were very eager to contribute. But for some reason, it took 39 years for Kitty to get her own full graphic novel / comic dedicated to her. Viz Media took up the role to push for Kitty's first ever graphic novel, and it wasn't very hard for them to get licensing rights. If you're unfamiliar with Viz Media, they're one of the top licensors of anime and manga in North America. They do have some original manga that they make, but it seems like their main thing is just getting the licenses of massively popular series and releasing English versions. Bleach, Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, and even Pokemon are a few of the IPs they handle, so they are by no means beginners in the sphere. Knowing their prowess in the field, I'm sure it's no shocker that Sanrio was very happy to partner with them and create a graphic novel. Well, 6 graphic novels actually. Viz quickly got to work, and in October of 2013, they released the first comic in their line of Hello Kitty comics, and also the first ever Hello Kitty comic / graphic novel. Hello Kitty, Here We Go. The book contains 7 full stories and 4 short comics across the span of 64 pages. There isn't much data out there to speak on how well the comic did financially, but it does only sell for around $7 used these days, so that typically indicates that it at the very least sold enough copies to not be some rare find. Now let's go ahead and dive right in to see if this comic is something actually worthwhile, or if it falls into that sad category of licensed garbage pushed out for a quick payday. You'll probably notice the page quality of the comic looks a little rough, but that's only because this is a scanned version of the book rather than the actual digital copy. So if you were to buy the book physically or digitally, it wouldn't look like this. The first story you come across in the book is called First, funnily enough, and it follows the story of Fifi doing her best to be the first at something. As you flip through the pages, you'll notice that there are no words. Well, I shouldn't say none. Titles will have words, and there may be generic dialogue like laughing, but characters never actually have conversations with one another or say things directly. Instead, everything is told through art or thought bubbles. It's also interesting to note that all the characters in the book are taken from Hello Kitty and Friends rather than pulling from a pool of Sanrio characters. Although the tiny little comic strips drawn by the guest artists do use popular Sanrio characters instead. We'll see those eventually. Back to the first comic, Fifi excitedly makes her way to, I believe, the North Pole, where she's going to be the first to plant her flag, but finds Kitty there. This is quite funny as Kitty just kinda stands there with her flag completely oblivious to what's going on. The bottom cell is particularly funny. Fifi goes to Antarctica instead, Kitty is already there. Mount Everest? Kitty actually isn't there just yet, and Fifi and crew are in the lead to reach the top, until they come across a big spooky yeti that makes them scurry away. Kitty no-sells the spookery and gives the big fella a hug, becoming best buds and planting her flag on Mount Everest. The next bit I don't really understand. The Yeti gets a show in London, and then Fifi watches along at the show and thinks about going to the moon next. I'm a bit confused why the comic shifted away from its central plot and focused on the Yeti show instead of developing the charming original story. I was maybe hoping to see Fifi face a challenge while trying to plant her flag and then have Kitty appear to assist her, leading to them both planting their flags together as a satisfying conclusion. It wasn't too bad though, just an odd ending. After the first story, you get one of the mini-comics written by the guest artist. The art style is very clearly much different, but also charming in its own way. The plot kinda ties in with the previous story, seeing Kitty and Mimi flying into space to plant Kitty's flag, but quickly finding out all her friends have been there first. It's cute and relevant. Thumbs up from me. The next story is probably my favorite in the entire book. Kitty shows up to help clean Mori's house, but accidentally falls into a hole and plummets down into a cave. There's a really nice and cute visual depiction of her descent that I like a lot. As she strolls about, she hears some spooky noises and a monster approaches. It turns out it isn't a monster. Instead, it's just a little rock dude. He brings Kitty back to his rock village where everything is made of stone, even the people, and they go into his rock family's home. This I feel is a little creepy. The mom and dad give me like Coraline fake mother and father vibes. They look so happy yet so deranged. Thankfully, they don't try to murder Kitty and instead have a nice little meal with her. Pops rocks, gets out his trusty tunnel map, and then the little fella and Kitty head out to get Kitty back home. She gets back to the surface and has an unbelievably adorable little hug with her rock buddy and heads out to call up Maury. Only now, she's in Aussie land. This comic is so well made in plot and pacing. I love the entire thing, and the silly touch of Kitty being in a completely different part of the world at the end is really clever. 2 big ol' thumbs up from me. The next story is another bigger story and revolves around Kitty being a super spy and chasing down a fox who stole a box from Buckingham Palace. The whole story is a giant chase scene and does just kind of feel like a last-minute filler story. I'm not a huge fan of this one. The highlights are Kitty commandeering a skateboard with a badge, which is actually pretty funny, and then her calling in her group of kitty ninjas as a distraction once she finally catches up to the baddie. She nabs the box and swims it to the palace, giving it back to the queen. But the queen isn't happy until she has her jam too, which of course has been stolen, making Kitty get back to work. Not a big fan of this one. The plot is just Kitty chasing someone with nothing really interesting or clever happening. Just kinda, hey, put ninjas in there. I give it a meh out of 10. As a contrast though, the next story is actually kinda cute. It's a bit shorter, but it does have a cute little premise and ending. Kitty heads out for the day and Mama gives her an umbrella just in case. As the clouds start to roll in, Kitty pops open that umbrella and before she knows it, she's lifted off into the sky. An eagle yoinks her and puts Kitty down in her nest, thinking she's a chick. Kitty hops out of the nest with her umbrella acting as a parachute and she lands gracefully in the water on top of the umbrella, it now becoming a raft. When she sails to a tropical island, she hops up onto a tree and lets the wind take her, which brings her all the way back home. The rain starts a-pouring and she runs home with her umbrella stowed away to get back home. I like this one. It feels like those old Mickey Mouse shorts where there's a theme and things sort of silently unravel around that theme. I also like the inclusion of having Kitty run home in the rain with her umbrella in tow, knowing that if she pops that thing open, she'll probably end up halfway to Zimbabwe. Our next story is a tiny one, and it shows Kitty and Rory rolling down the road in their whip and getting a flat tire. Melody rolls by, and my goodness, she looks like she's seen some things. This looks like my Melody after 14 years of gutter drugs. Even with Melody on some illicit substance, she's nice enough to give them her wheel, and they head off to probably buy Munted Melody a pack of cigarettes. This short one gets a thumbs up from me. It's a fun, creative, and cute premise, even if Melody has something sinister lurking inside. Another tiny one next, and it's more of a visual treat rather than a story. Kitty and Tracy are for some reason going on a date and you get to see all their obstacles on the way to the date. It's fun enough. Thumbs up. The next one is a full one and it's called Watch the Birdie. Kitty and the gang roll up to a photography trip and Kitty gives Daniel a mega hug. Kitty shows Daniel the elusive critter she wants to photograph, a giant bird. They all tag along with Daniel, photographing many types of animals, but Kitty wants some snaps of the feathered fella. She hears movement and thinks she's on the right trail, but the bird boy keeps juking Kitty out playfully. She finally resorts to asking the animals of the jungle if they've seen the bird, but none of them have any clue what she's on about. Daniel runs to find her for a group photo, and then Kitty and the gang head back home. But when Kitty develops her pictures, she sees the elusive bird photobomb the group photo, and she's beyond happy. A big thumbs up on this one. Good, simple premise. Everything flowed well, and it had a creative finale. This feels like the example of how to make a good silent story. Our second to last big story focuses on time travel, and it's a weird one. Kitty comes across an antique store and decides to pursue inside. She finds a peculiar looking mud rock statue thing of what looks to be a prehistoric kitty. When she touches it, she's sent back in time to when dinosaurs roamed. She gets chased by a frankly adorable T-Rex, but is saved by a prehistoric kitty. Ooga Booga Kitty takes normal Kitty back to her cave people village where there are prehistoric versions of all her friends lounging about. When she meanders into one of their caves and sees their paintings, Kitty thinks they need a little iconic kitty touch, and she teaches them all about love and rainbows and the many adorable and lovely things from her life. They all quickly copy her drawings and ideas and create a new mural full of color and love. Kitty regretfully has to return home, but when she does, Jody and Tippy discover the mural in a cave in the modern day and they are thoroughly flabbergasted. Another really good one. Everything flows nicely and is very charming. I'm not a big fan of the weird mud guy being some sort of time travel device though. That could have been done a lot better, I think. Maybe have it be some ancient bow that she puts on and makes her time travel. Or go full generic and make it a pocket watch or something like that. Not a big fan of Mud Kitty. Other than that though, very good story. Our final big story is a creative one. Kitty takes out a book from the library and reads it. It's a story about a village getting spooked by a dragon, so the kingdom goes to the cave to slay the beast, only to find that it's just a sleeping Thomas. Kitty isn't a fan, so she goes for a new book. This one tells the story of Kitty exploring the bottom of the sea, only to be snatched up by a giant squid. Kitty doesn't approve. Her next read sees her as a cowgirl, but then her horse gets stolen by some jabroni cowboy. No bueno for Kitty. The last attempt at a good book is a noir detective-style adventure. But the client never stops yapping, lulling Kitty to sleep in her book and real life. Kitty has had enough of these bad books and uses her imagination to create her own, referencing all the books she just read. A tale of suspense as Noir Kitty gets word from some villagers that something very bad is happening. Kitty mounts her horse and sets off to fight the giant squid that is terrorizing the city. A more exciting and fitting story for Kitty. This comic is probably my second favorite amongst them all, right behind the Rock Boy one. It's extremely creative, but also adorable, as all things Hello Kitty related should be. That leads us to the final comic in the book. A short one, but a nice one to end on. Kitty and her family are out camping. Kitty goes to sleep, but sees that a bear is encroaching upon her tent. She opens the tent door and, oh, it's just a teddy bear fella. She sleeps next to the cute little guy. The end. An adorable little tale. Big thumbs up. And finally, that concludes Hello Kitty's first ever comic book. I think it was mostly a hefty success. The only story I felt like was a little too generic was the spy one. Oh, and the first story sort of derailed itself towards the end. Besides that, everything was done well. The art was very modern and looked great, and while I found not having dialogue kind of annoying in some places, overall I think it actually helped the stories a ton. It gives them way more character and allows you to visually see all the emotion rather than just reading it. Hello Kitty, Here We Go gets 2 big ol' meaty thumbs up from me. Now I want to hear from you gals and guys. Did any of you ever read this comic, or any of the 6 in the series? Maybe you didn't even know they existed and now you're scouring the internet to scoop them up. Either way, I love hearing from you all. I read every comment and I respond to most. Thanks for watching the video, and hey, if you enjoyed it, a like and subscription help out a ton. Plus, they're free. So long.